somebody, then please say so. Then you have at your seats some papers. Well, here comes the head person of the day. Here's Julia. Welcome up to the podium, Julia. There we are in business used to just in time, so we decided to start and not lose time, and we expected you would show up in a few minutes. You have these papers with different colors. They are going to be used for voting, and at some stage James will tell us what that means. But don't put them away. You might be asked to express your opinion by showing a card here. Should we have a problem, there is an IUCN staff in the room that will give instructions, but the emergency exits are here, the doors on that side of the room. If we have to exit, then you can then just turn left and you're out on the courtyard. There is translation, and you have on each row you have equipment for translation. And there are 4 languages: English on channel 1, Korean channel 2, French channel 3, and Spanish on channel 4. These are traditional gadgets for interpretation, so I'm sure you will manage. There is also one further thing, and on your seats there is a little USB stick. And on this stick you will find the relevant WBCSD publications related to ecosystems. And there is one publication which is brand new. It was launched this morning. It is called Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, Scaling Up Business Solutions, Company Case Studies that Help Achieve Global Biodiversity Targets. And you will find a number of those companies that are in this report are in the room and will also appear on the panels here today. So that's my comments regarding the opening of today, and we are looking forward to a very active day. Now we will have 2 keynotes to set the scene from the 2 organizations that are our hosts here today, IUCN and WBCSD. And we have Julia Maton-Lefebvre, the head of IUCN, and we have Peter Backer, the president of WBCSD, who will both give us their views on the scene of today. So let me start with you, Julia. You are welcome to the podium.
Thank you, Florence. Thank you. Sorry. Good morning. Excuse my voice. I'm sorry to be a little late. We started off with a revolutionary new design of IUCN's Congress by integrating the forum with the members' assembly, and our members had a little trouble getting used to it, but it was a big success. It was supposed to be over half an hour ago, but we almost made it. So first of all, I'm really happy that this is happening, and thank you to WBCSD and all of your members and partners. This is really important. I should also tell you that when I think Bjorn and Peter know this, that when I was interviewed 5 years ago to consider becoming the head of the Director General of IUCN, I asked a lot of questions from the interview group, including, is IUCN working with business? Because our mission says we're supposed to influence, engage, and assist society throughout the world in using nature and natural resources in a sustainable and equitable manner. And if business isn't a part of societies, I wouldn't have wanted to be Director General. I was told yes, and so that's really one of the reasons. I would have probably not been here with you today if IUCN would not be engaging in business. So I want to welcome all of you on behalf of IUCN and of course on behalf of my council and the president of IUCN, and thank you again for this long partnership with WBCSD. So we are here today to discuss what have been the achievements, but also the challenges ahead. So the IUCN Congress is what we think is where the world comes together to make commitments, plans, and actions to build resilience, to make nature stronger and drive real and lasting change on a global scale. I believe that today's conversation is very appropriate. So as you know, the theme of the Congress, were many of you at the opening session? Can I see how many of you? So quite a few. So you know about the theme of the Congress, Nature Plus. Many people tell me that that should maybe be the new logo of IUCN. One of our challenges is IUCN, but everyone knows WBCSD, so maybe we should keep IUCN and put Nature Plus underneath. So what we're trying to do here is to showcase how strong and resilient nature is intricately linked to solving the global challenges and how it can bring positive results for both people and the planet. So we're hoping that the Congress will send clear messages to the rest of the world that nature can and indeed does provide solutions to some of the most difficult problems in environment and development challenges. And so what we need to do, of course, is to invest in nature, and we have to do it now. So now, of course, I know you know the answers, but many people out there still ask me, why would business bother about this kind of engagement and these negative trends? And of course, I always explain, and I know you know this, that all businesses in one way or another depend on ecosystem services and therefore are affected by the loss of biodiversity and the degradation of ecosystems. So of course, businesses are also affect the quality of these systems through their operations. So it's a two-way street, why the conservation community must work with you, and in my view, why business must work with us. And we've had a great partnership, and I intend fully to make sure that it continues. I just want to say that during this Congress, one of the main things that our members have to do is, first of all, to put into action this huge and complicated democracy of IUCN, but it is a democracy with governments and NGOs as members. We have had conversations, should business become a member. Right now we're all happy that we're close partners. But one of the most important things that our members will be voting on, and we've got 1,272 members right now, and we've got already a queue of new applications, is to adopt a new program that IUCN, that means the members, the commissions, and the secretariat will be carrying out together. And I think our program that we're proposing to our members, and I'm sure you've seen it, is really very exciting, and it will drive the organization, again, this whole union, for the next 4 years. So I remind you, of course, that biodiversity conservation remains IUCN's heartland issue. We're not turning away from it. At the same time, IUCN is a conservation organization with perhaps the longest track record in social and human rights issues. We have a vision that says a just world that values and conserves nature. So we're not only committed tree huggers, we're also very interested in sustainable development. In fact, we were the first to have ever defined that way before the Brundtland Commission. So in recent years, of course, we have also embraced economics, exploring the concept of natural capital. And I'm glad to see Josh Bishop, our former chief economist. One day you've got to come back, Josh, or we let him go to Sydney to WWF for a while. I don't know whether you know that IUCN had the great idea 51 years ago to give birth to WWF, and if they don't know it in Sydney, you should remind them. So the economics has also become one of the key themes of our new program, which we hope, and I'm expecting that Congress will approve. So as we seek new nature-based solutions to global challenges in climate change, food security, social and economic development, effective and equitable governance of the use of nature, and valuing and conserving nature, we also need innovative and creative thinking. And I'm very proud that IUCN today, as an organization that has truly and sincerely and deeply acknowledged the importance of working with business in finding these nature-based solutions. So at this Congress, you will see the word business repeated on many occasions. In the Business and Economy Pavilion, we have a very rich series of events, over 80 events, and we have numerous business delegates I don't know quite how many. Tell me, Julia, do you know? Around 100. Great. And I think this is the most of business delegates that we've had to the Congress, so this is great progress. We're walking the talk about working together. And we have numerous motions. That is the way our members set policy for us. They discuss motions. We've got way too many, 176. It's a very vibrant democracy. But we've got numerous motions that mention business. So I think we've made a lot of progress. Yesterday, in the first World Leaders Dialogue, we had 2 representatives of business. Shell, Marvin, thank you for being there. Hosem, I don't know if Roxana is in the room. But the former president, there you are, the former president of Guyana, Barat Jardeo, said very wisely that he couldn't imagine 10 years ago our community, IUCN, having the kind of world leaders panel with 2 representatives of business, 3 representatives of governments, and it went very well. And I think the question by the audience addressed to business, you couldn't address them all. I don't know if you saw them, Roxana and Marvin, they were behind you, but they were really not aggressive. They were really helpful, conversation kind of thing. So I think I'm very optimistic that we are even more ready today than we were 4 years ago to work with you in a meaningful partnership. So I'm really very grateful to your leadership as WBCSD, as the representatives of the individual businesses here. And I think you also know that we have a new business engagement strategy. We have a renewed business and biodiversity group led by someone who's come from business, Gerard Ross. As you can see, Roxana, we're moving around between IUCN and WWF, between Holcim and IUCN. Maybe it's just a realization that we all are in the same boat together and we don't have that much time to solve our problems. So I think that is a very good sign, and I'm very, very optimistic indeed that we will be working even closer together. So I didn't want to make a long speech, and I have a terrible voice that you have to listen to. I'm sorry for that. I'm glad I'm not going to be singing at the concert this evening. But I really want to thank the members of the WBCSD and Peter Bakker, your new president, also. Of course, Bjorn, it's great to see you here, for your engagement with us, James and all of your team, for your support to IUCN and your commitment to integrate ecosystem thinking in your members' business approaches. So thank you again for your commitment, for your leadership. Thank you for being here, and thank you for accepting me to come 3 minutes late. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julia. Always a pleasure being with you. And the word now over to Peter.
Good morning. Thank you, Julia. I'm in real trouble today. I'm the president of WBCSD, but I've only been that for about 8 months, and the former president's in the room. So, when I talk about biodiversity and ecosystems, I can really only give you the view of a newcomer to this territory. So forgive me any ignorance or any mistakes I made, but let me tell you where I think we're at and what business will do about it. I think it's pretty clear that if you look around the world, the change or the threats to ecosystems and biodiversity are clear. In the past, we used to have discussions whether the models of scientists were right or wrong or conservative or not. But now all you really need to do is pick up the newspaper and just read the news. The droughts in the mid of the USA, the Arctic ice melting all around, droughts this week in India, big in the news, and that's going to seriously impact the future for all of us. And business more and more realizes that it depends on ecosystems and biodiversity. We have, through a steep learning curve, begun to understand the services that nature provides business. We actually have moved into a world where business begins to realize there are limits to the resources that we can use or the amount of emissions we can produce. All of a sudden, nature, biodiversity and ecosystems has become part of the language of business through frameworks like risk management. And one of the things, and again, only a newcomer can say this in his first outing, the language of biodiversity and ecosystems and service provision and all these words is incredibly difficult. I used to be a simple business person, now I'm here. But there's a new language emerging, which is called natural capital. And for a business person, that is a much easier word to understand. You have financial capital, you have social capital, you have natural capital. So if you're a modern business leader, of course you manage your natural capital just as you would manage your financial capital. Because we realize that if you look at the natural capital of the planet, the stress will only increase. And we're at 7 billion inhabitants on our planet today. We live in a planet where every 6 seconds a child dies from hunger. We live on a planet where every 12 seconds another child dies for lack of sanitation. That's directly related to natural capital, to ecosystems, to biodiversity, to our ability to provide food. And we know that in the next decades, the population of the planet will grow from 7 billion today to more than 9 billion in the future. So the pressure is only going to go up. We also know that where we have 2 billion middle-class consumers today, that's going to double or more. So the amount of consumption is going to increase. And if we're already in a world of resource limitations today, we better start managing that very seriously if we want to not have major disasters. So WBCSD, under the leadership of Björn, in 2010 published a report called Vision 2050. I think it was the first time business spoke out on business as usual is no longer sustainable. We need to radically transform the way we run our planet, do business, consume, and all the other aspects. And in that book, Vision 2050, there was a definition about what is sustainability all about. And it's very simple. In 2050, there will be 9+ billion people. They all need to live well, and together we need to live within the limits of the planet. So 9+ billion people all live well within the limits of the planet, which means we need to deal with the growth of population from 7 to 9+. We need to make sure they all live well, meaning we need to eradicate poverty, and we need to get back into the limits or the boundaries of our planet. And it won't surprise you that as the president of WBCSD, I believe that business has a major role to play in providing the solutions to get back within the boundaries of our planet. And that's why this morning, James Griffith, myself, have launched this book. It still talks about biodiversity and ecosystem services, but it gives you 25 solutions that business has been implementing and implementing at scale. And much more is needed. First thing that is needed is collaboration. I cannot thank Julia enough. The partnership between IUCN and WBCSD has now been going since 2005. I think it's up for extension next year. It takes two to tango, so I maybe should not preempt it. But we will definitely continue the partnership from our end. But also new dialogues with governments, with civil society are required. It's not the case that business on its own can put all the solutions in place. We need regulators to help. We need civil society to challenge business if we're not doing the right things, but also to help us bring the right solutions in place. We need good dialogues with local communities. So collaboration, I think, is going to be a major piece of our agenda. And that's why in the run-up to Rio, WBCSD published a book called Changing Pace, which is an invite to all governments, to all civil society, to start this dialogue at local level to get these solutions in place. But I want to end on a couple of simple words. I want to thank all of you for coming, and Julia in particular, but we all know why we are here in Jeju. We all, many of us traveled long ways to get here, but we all know why we are here. We all know what it is we need to do. We certainly know when we need to do it, which is now. So if you have the why, the what, and the when figured out, there's only one question that is left to be answered. And I would really urge this whole conference to focus on that question, that is, how are we going to do it? How are we going to implement solutions? How are we going to implement them at scale and at speed? And that's why every of these think tanks, I would really urge you to focus on how to get to scale, to implementation at speed, and make sound about the things we're doing well. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Julia, for those starting words. And we will now go to the first expert panel about greening the world economy and the company perspectives on action. And it will be led by James Griffiths, who is the Managing Director for Ecosystems in the WBCSD. You can see panelists here, and James will take us up to lunch. Just before lunch, we will have 10 minutes of the wise summary of translation of what we have said by George Bishop.